I'll just make sure I have that brilliant chat open so I can ensure that you guys see me, or that I can see you, more or less. Alrighty, cool beans. All right, hopefully you guys can see my screen. I'm going to assume so until somebody says something in the chat to let me know you don't. And hopefully you guys can hear me well. Hopefully you can give me like a quick thumbs up. And hopefully there's not too much of a delay. If you can see my screen where it says how to capture your flags, jumping into the world of CTFs, in the chat, you can give me a thumbs up so that I know I can move forward and we can get started. Yep. Okay, thank you. Awesome. Cool beans. Hey, Eunice. Hey there. Thank you guys for giving me that thumbs up or confirmation in that chat. Appreciate it. So if you are interested in CTFs, maybe you've heard of it, you've been interested in it, and maybe you haven't had the opportunity, the time, or just maybe you've been somewhat intimidated by it. I really hope that in this workshop we'll be able to, I'll be able to help you gain a little bit more confidence with that. I know from personal experience, it's something that I've experienced getting into the InfoSec world, and especially as a new person to it, right? All right, just quickly before we really get into everything else, just quick disclaimer. The information here that I'm presenting today is my personal opinion. I'm not representing any other company or any other entity, and it's based on my current understanding of the topics that we're going to speak today, or I'll be speaking about, or we'll be covering. And also, I do not accept any responsibility, liability damages for anything that is used from this talk. So yeah. And like I just mentioned a second ago, basically our objective here is to learn about capture the flags, what these cyber challenges really entail, how they can really benefit you, and hopefully overall build your confidence to, participate in one, whether it's on your own or with a team. Before we get into the hands-on portion, some things that you will need to have either set up if you want to participate in it. For Over the Wire, which is going to be our Linux-based cyber challenge, you'll need, we'll be connecting that through SSH. So you can use on Windows something like Putty. If you have a Kali image that you were able to install, I believe there was a setup sheet that was provided. Hopefully you were able to do that. So then you have your own VM ready to go and use after this workshop. But you can use your terminal for that. And then the other two, the OWASP Juice Shop, will be accessing that through a browser. Again, through the setup sheet I believe I provided, you can set up your own instance. In case you were not, I will be providing you my URL for my instance that I have set up. So no need to worry on that. You just might not get, you might just not be the first person to get to the challenge or unlock the challenge. And then Pentester Academy, with that, we'll also be accessing using your browser, and you'll just need a Gmail account to use that. You can either use your personal one, or you can use a rando one, a throwaway, whichever you prefer. And none of these are going to be any cost to you. Excuse me. So just a little bit about me. I'm a New Yorker. You might not be able to tell from my accent unless I say coffee or if I say hot dog, but I am. I'm a penetration tester. Recently, I got introduced to the field about 2 years ago after being a world famous Jungle Cruise skipper at Walt Disney World, and being a bartender for many years and working in the hospitality field. I made the transition into information security. In February, I achieved the Offensive Security Wireless Professional Certification, which tests your skills on cracking into various Wi-Fi technologies. I'm currently pursuing the OSCP, which is Offensive Security Certified Professional, which is more network-based. another thing that I have listed here is that I'm community driven. Even though I am relatively new to the field, I believe we all have insight and knowledge that is valuable to share. And I think that it's helpful to teach that and pay that forward. So I really value providing resources and, you know, just giving back to our information, our community as a whole. We need it. As you can see here, I successfully found my soulmate. You know, any opportunity I could show a picture of my dog, I will. And there he is, the love of my life right there. And, you know, even if I sound dry, I might sound a little sarcastic, I'm always about having fun at the end of the day. And that's, you know, why I like doing CTFs. So let's get into it. I'm gonna take a little sippy sip of water. So what are CTFs? Well, CTFs as a whole is known as, well, in the information security world, are cyber challenges that test participants' skills, whether it's through problem solving, whether it's a technical challenge, and ultimately you're trying to attain a flag or, you know, a key. Flag, you know, hence the name, capture the flag, right? There's many different styles of CTFs. Two main ones are the Jeopardy style and attack and defense. On the screen, you can see, so Jeopardy style, you know, has a range of challenges. Usually they're categorized and they'll have a certain point assigned to them. So if something ranking at like 100 point might be something like, what port does HTTP run on? And whatever that answer is, once you submit it, that would have that 100 point value, which would be, you know, port 80. Whereas something that might be like a 1,000 point value might be something where you're analyzing a packet capture and you're trying to identify what information was divulged in a certain packet. So, and that would have a higher value. Also, the values tend to have a certain time constraint as to when you have to retrieve it. Usually the first person that gets to it gets the highest, and as time goes on, it tends to have like a lower value, but it's also up to the organizer that is providing this style CTF. Attack and defense is more of, you know, you're defending or you're attacking a server, and typically this requires a lot more skills, a lot of technical skills, and whereas Jeopardy style is opened or tends to be a little bit more beginner friendly. Not saying that beginners cannot or don't participate in attack and defense, but, you know, it just happens to be like that. And between these two different styles, there can be a wide range of topics that are involved. So there can be web app challenges. The whole CTF could be completely web app. It could be cryptography. There could be network-based challenges, so on and so forth. And, you know, the list goes on. It might not just be those three. It could be a whole ton of it. It could just be one of those topics, right? So you really can focus or hone in on a specific skill. Where might you want to find some CTFs? Well, two really great resources is the interwebs. Google can become your best friend. Even if you just type in capture the flag challenges in Google, you can find a whole bunch of resources that people have put out there of different types of CTFs that they've come across, or CTFs that are now published, or walkthroughs on certain CTFs, and also your community. Places like WSC, today we have Trend Micro that's doing a CTF. I know in my local chapter here at local DEF CON chapter, we do Net King of the Hill style CTFs, which are attack and defense style. So use your community, your network. I know on LinkedIn, especially with quarantine and shelter in place, there has been a ton of CTFs that have been going on. So, you know, I don't know how many times I could repeat myself with that. So, all right, so some CTF competitions that you could find out there. This is just a few. Again, there's tons out there. Sans Holiday Hack Challenge is a major one, where it happens around the Christmas time, and it's like a virtual conference. There's a bunch of talks, a lot of phenomenal talks similar to this. And they have small challenges or small, some of those talks will correlate with the challenge that is going on, and which overall encompasses into one big CTF. And at the end of that time frame, I believe it's like up until like mid-January, and I could be mistaken on that, but once that deadline comes up, people do write CTF reports for it. They get submitted to SANS, and then a winner is chosen. And at that point, you can go ahead and revisit. You can go ahead and see the SANS Holiday Hack Challenge from this year, which was KringleCon 2, Two Turtle Doves. And you can actually walk through some of those CTFs, or you can just participate in them. You can participate in, I mean, you wouldn't really be participating in the time frame, but you can actually have that experience of going through those challenges and learn. There's tons of aspects to learn from that. I do apologize if you hear my dog. He's a faulty alarm system. Gets very excited when he hears a knock. Outside of that, there's the Google CTF, which is web-based. They usually do like a qualifier round. I don't know if they're doing one for 2020, but I know they did one for 2019, as well as Facebook did as well. Trace Labs is another one, which is a web, is OSINT based, which is open source intelligence gathering, open source intelligence. And this one's really cool. I'm a huge fan of it. And the participants, if you do partake in this, you're actually, the information you're going on is helping you find missing persons cases, like live missing persons cases. And those clues or those flags that you could potentially attain get turned over to local law enforcement, which could help potentially close a case. Another one here you see is the SECCDC, which is the Southeastern Collegiate Cyber Defense Challenge or Competition, which is defense-based. This is something that I actually did participate in when I was in college, which you get to act as a team, as a actual company where you have an active red team going against you, and you have to handle it properly. You're acting as an incident response team, and it's just very, very cool experience. That's just a few. Again, tons out there, but this is just to give you an idea of what type of competitions are out there. Now, excuse me. Other type of CTF style challenges. Now these don't really, you can kind of go back and forth. I kind of consider them as CTFs, but they're not really. But they have a flag that you might be attaining in some of these. But a lot of these lab environments, if you will, can help you build those skills that can help you in participating in a CTF competition, whether you do it independently or if you do it as a team. A few here are, and again, there's tons of them out there now. These are just a few that I've had actual practice and experience with. Pentester Academy, Practical Pentest Labs, and Hack the Box, they all have, well, Pentester Academy just came with a ctf.live, which is a free version of CTFs that they have available to the community. But those three also do have subscription-based memberships. Practical Pentest Labs actually has, they say it's a subscription, it's a one-time payment, but Practical Pentest Labs and Hack the Box, you actually VPN into the network. And if you have the paid version, which is usually the VIP version of it, you have access to a VIP lab where there's less traffic going into it, there's less users because you are sharing these resources with other students. So that's what's really cool about them. With Practical Pentest Labs in particular, something that I enjoy is you do have kind of course, they provide coursework. So in your first module, I think it's like network scanning. And what you would do, they'll teach you a couple methodologies or a couple tools. And in order to unlock course number 2, you have to provide a report based on the things that you've achieved. And it might, you know, there'll be a certain task that you have to go into a certain machine and gather X, Y, Z pieces of information. And then course 2 will be opened up, and then so on and so forth until you've completed all that coursework, which it gives you a really good feel for how, if you were doing a security assessment, how that would apply in the real world. Because if you are doing, if you want to go if you want to do pen testing as a profession, these are things that you will end up doing. If you are doing a security engagement, a security assessment, at the end of your engagement, you're going to provide a report, whether that encompasses screenshots or a proof of concept, and turning that into those business units or system owners. So I think that's a really cool thing. They do also have a Wi-Fi environment, which that's something new that's been coming up with a lot of these community labs. And then a few other ones that you see that are free here is Juice Shop, which is provided by OWASP. The major contributor to that, and hopefully I can say his name right, is Bjorn Kiminich. I apologize if I said his name wrong, but it's this JavaScript-based web application that's riddled with vulnerabilities, and it's a ton of fun to play with. They have a wide range of different level challenges. So they start off from trivial to extremely difficult. And it's just a lot of fun to go ahead and revisit or just to play around in. Over the Wire, that's another one. And actually we'll be going through these two different cyber challenges during this workshop. So yeah, so this should give you an idea. And another thing that I meant to mention a little bit before I went down this path is one thing I want to also provide through this workshop is you don't necessarily, it can be helpful for you to have your own local environment or lab for yourself, but it can be extremely helpful if you do not have, if you have budgetary constraints, if you have resource constraints. I know as a student, when I was, I was working 2 part-time jobs, I was going to school full-time and doing a bunch of other extracurriculars, the other activities, that it was hard for me to build my own lab. So I had to hunt to find resources online that would be accessible for myself as a student. And that way I can learn and really get these technical skills. So, hopefully this gives you a resource of where you can practice and get those skills if you are not able to create your own lab environment. Okay, so why might you want to participate in the CTF? Well, just a few things. If I haven't said this or conveyed this already, they're meant to build and test your skills. So if you are absolutely brand new to the field, there's CTF or cyber challenges that are there that are meant to help you build from the ground up, even without much foundation, right? And there's others that, they expect a certain level of knowledge. And so that can help you build or, build on those existing skills that you may already have. Also with CTF, something that I really enjoy doing this is a really great way to work either collaboratively or with other individuals. Something I enjoy doing, if I just didn't repeat myself, is I like to work on my own on something, and then later on I might want to, have a friend or a fellow colleague work on stuff if we have, some free time. And I can learn a different technique on how to achieve the same flag. I could think of one way and another person could think of another way that I might have never come across. So it's a really great way to kind of expand your knowledge. And also anybody and everybody, I believe, can learn from participating in this, whether you're a SOC analyst, if you work on the defense side, if you're a network administrator, if you are a developer, based on different CTFs, you can definitely learn something to enhance your career or enhance your knowledge in that field. Apologize if I'm moving my hands too close to the screen. It's the Italian in me. So some skills that you can learn not only can be technical skills, but they can also be soft skills, right? So here I've listed just a few. I'm sure there's plenty others, but these are definitely things that I know I've gained and I've seen other participants gain. So things like problem solving, clear, and I think that's pretty obvious. If you're presented an issue or a challenge, you're going to have to think critically. You're going to have to flex that muscle to try to figure out what can be the path to solve this issue or to attain this flag. This can be, so another thing is hands-on experience. So if you, this is really from like all skill levels can really benefit from this. So in these CTFs, you know, this is a lab environment that allows you to break things. This is an environment for you to learn. This is what this environment is meant for you to do. And being able to have this experience, whether you're a student and you've learned a lot of these things in theory, but you haven't been able to apply it. Let's say it's something like cross-site scripting, participating in a CTF or a cyber challenge, or working on these lab environments will give you that opportunity to have that hands-on experience of being able to run a script, or maybe be able to pop, pop an alert box on a web page, or whatever it might be. Maybe it is getting a shell on a machine, and then that's something you can talk to if you choose to go down this career path, or down one of the security career path, because this can really apply to a lot of different places. Another thing is teamwork. So like I mentioned before, you can learn a lot of things from other people. This also gives you a way to connect with other people that have similar interests with you. You know, the things that you do in your professional activities, it's just, it can broaden your horizons. I can't speak more positively about that, quite honestly. And, you know, yeah, I mean, I could just repeat that again, because I think very highly of that. I think that that's a really great aspect of working on a team in some of these CTFs, or whatever CTFs allow it. And especially nowadays, sometimes it can be, I know myself, I'll fall into my little rabbit hole of chugging along in a cyber challenge, and, you know, sometimes I like to be able to go bounce ideas off of other people's head. You know, my little Lando can only respond so well to me. He just bobs his head. Whereas if I'm working with somebody else, whether it's virtually or in person, you know, it makes for a very engaging work. And then also time management. This helps critically with this, because in these capture the flag competitions, there is a set time frame that you have to achieve getting these flags, or turn in the flags, or complete all the challenges. So this helps you really sit there and organize, okay, how are we going to go ahead and tackle this issue? How are we going to hit it? How are we going to solve this problem within an hour? Or let's say it's a 24-hour CTF, or it's just this, you know, coming up with a plan of attack on how are we going to tackle each of these challenges so we could hit the overall goal. Excuse me. Okay. So if I am not beating a dead horse at this point, how can this really help advance your InfoSec career? Well, one, this shows that you're passionate about the field, right? Because if you're doing this in your free time, it speaks volumes about you. Something that somebody has told me once before is that you can be taught these technical skills, but you can't be taught the passion. And I even get goosebumps thinking about that, because it is so true. When you're truly passionate about it, you can hear it in your tone. You can hear it when you speak on these experiences. And to get to something on here, if you are a student and you're participating in CTFs, or if you're new to the field and you're doing this as a hobbyist and you want to make that jump into this being your professional role, being able to put something like this on your resume is phenomenal, because even though you might not have the work experience, you have that technical experience to speak on. Whether it's you were able to talk on SQL injection, how you were able to execute it on this one during the CTF or during the cyber challenge, and being able to speak on, oh, well, this is how you can remediate this by, you know, sanitizing user input, whatever it might be. That really shows the potential employer that you are interested in this, that you are going out and you're learning. And not only for people that don't have the work experience, but this also shows it for people who are already in the field, that you are proactively looking to build your skill sets. So being able to say, you know, maybe I'm in a field where I'm predominantly working on web apps, and I want to jump into the field of mobile testing, doing CTFs that are particular with maybe an Android app, or you know, identifying security vulnerabilities in those. Being able to show that shows that you're proactively building those skill sets, and that you're interested in this, and you can put that in put that like kind of in your back pocket. There's another word I wrote for it, but that's what we're going to stick with. And professionals that are in the field, your potential employers, if you go down this path again, they know what goes into doing these CTFs. They understand the value and the skills that are gained from them. So being able to participate in them, I mean, it's a good thing. It's not going to hurt you. So some tips for participating in CTFs. Keep your notes. I can't say that enough. You know, whether it's through OneNote, whether it's in Cherry Tree, you know, pick your poison, whatever you choose. And don't be afraid to put screenshots in it. I know me personally, I use Cherry Tree, and for my screenshots, I use, what is it, Greenshot. Now I'll actually show you why I use this. So let me go ahead. Actually, no, I could just do it like this. So if you see my screen, Greenshot, I just go ahead and hit the print screen button. I can go ahead and do this, and I can send it to image editor. Now, if I was to go into a report and I needed to show this, one, this might not look good on a report or in my notes. So what I could do really quickly is quickly invert this. This makes this really eatable, makes this really readable for business units, service owners. If you're turning in a report, let's say you do something like Practical Pentest Labs, that you have to return a report to get into the next course. This provides you, you know, it just makes it look better. Also, if you needed to, you could also throw on a border. Just makes it look much nicer, makes it look cleaner. Another easy thing you can do here is go ahead and highlight. So if there was a piece of code that needed to be sanitized, and you're just showing like, hey, this is what's troublesome in this source code, you can go ahead and highlight that. And then also, another thing that is really cool about this, as soon as I can find it, is the obfuscation. So let's say you found in an assessment that you found passwords, right? You are not going to want to publish that in your report, or you may want to, but in some cases you're not going to. So to be able to obfuscate that comes in really handy, and being able to do this really quickly and go ahead and copying it to your clipboard and then just pasting in your report or into your notepad makes it super duper helpful. So that's one tool that I like using. Another thing is that I said this before, and I know I found myself get very frustrated in these instances when I am thinking to retrieve this flag is going to just be this one particular path, and so I get stressed out and I don't think outside of the box. So, you know, just be open-minded that there might be another way to get through this, or it might be another way to retrieve this flag. And if you do get stressed out, you know, take a breath, walk away, maybe go eat. I know for me, eating helps, you know, like a Kit Kat. You know, talk it out with a duck, talk it out with a Lando, whoever you have, because it'll help. I find that it helps you, you know, think of an alternative way. It gets you out of that thought process that you were currently in that might not have been working for you. And then when you get back, you get right back and you think, oh, wait, you thought of an alternative way, and maybe that just so happens to work for you. So now that we're done with that portion, we're ready to get our hands dirty. I'll give you guys a second to just make sure that we have everything set up and ready to go. The first one we're going to be doing is over the wire. Just going to make sure that you guys can we're all still here. Oh, wow. Okay. Was not seeing any of the chats upload, so now I just see them all upload. Okay, cool. Oh yeah, National Cyber League is also really good CTF to be in part of. Okay. right, just give you guys a moment. I'm gonna go set my screen up for y'all. He's cheering you on. Yes, he does. My moral support buddy. I'm just catching up on the chat, just making sure I didn't, if there's any questions. Okay, cool. So if you guys, so our plan of attack from this point, what we're going to do is we're going to work on 3 different style Ctf challenge styles. We're going to do over the wire, which is going to be Linux based. This is something, the particular game we're going to be doing is called Bandit, which is super beginner friendly. Then we'll jump over to, let me finish that. We're going to connect that, their servers through SSH. So make sure you either have PuTTY or you have VM set up and ready to go, which that was a good reminder for myself as well. Okay, and hopefully just let me know, does the terminal look good to you guys? Can you see it? If you want, I can make it a little bit larger. I can make it a little bit larger. Oh, why can't I scroll this chat? Yep. Feel alive at your shop. I like that. Feel alive with this juice. Alrighty. I'm thinking you guys can see my terminal. So yeah, can I make it larger? For sure. I got you. Oh, a couple other tips I meant to mention. Was so you'll see. Good to maximize. What was I gonna say? Oh, so just a few things if you're not familiar with, I guess with terminal as well. Like if you're writing a long command, or in this particular case for over the wire, when we're SSH-ing, we're going to be repeating that, kind of rinse, repeating, slightly tweaking. So what comes in handy with that is using your up arrow, because that will provide your most recent command that you submitted. So something like that. Also, when you're reading files, if it's a lengthy file name, something that I like to use is, do the first 3 letters of that file name, first 3 characters, and doing tab for autocomplete definitely comes in handy. And also, in particular with over the wire, the type of flags we're going to be looking for, we're going to be looking for a lengthy kind of hash-like looking string. So you can see at the bottom of my screen, I have my little cherry tree notepad here. I don't know about you guys. I tend to fat finger a lot with when it comes to lengthy strings. So I'm going to just be copying and pasting. And especially if you want to come back to these challenges, it's really, it can be very helpful just to have that so you can pick up where you left off, unless you want to go through all of them. I've done that many times. I've also done it the other way around. And you can see here, and I'll give you like a little, this is the kind of notes that I kind of keep. I'll make this a little larger so you can see it better. I keep notes for whether it's a security assessment that I'm participating in, or if it's a capture the flag that I'm doing. Some things, something that I've noticed by participating in CTFs is something you might learn. So let's say it's a privilege escalation or a certain script. It can be something that occurs in the real world. A lot of these challenges you know, they're modeled off of something that has happened in the real world. So it can become really helpful having a notepad like this. So, or a repository of your notes that you've come across, whether it has scripts or whatever. That way you can always go back to it and use it as reference. There's been times where on a CTF, you know, there might've been something like a SQL injection that I found, like, you know, I got to use during a CTF or to use as an exploit, and I was able to apply that in another CTF or in a security assessment, where I might just had to tweak just the syntax a little bit or just change the point of where the exploit was actually taking place. The vulnerability was actually taking place. So that's my notes that you can kind of see there. And, you know, do your notes however it helps you. Another one that we're going to do is OWASP Juice Shop, which is going to be a web app. Only thing that you're going to need for that is your browser. One that I recommend, I recommend either Google or Firefox. And I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste this stuff into the chat, just so you guys have it, and I'll paste it in later just when we get to that point. This is going to be my URL for that, and I'll actually paste you guys this. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I want to make sure that you guys have this and that I don't miss sending this to y'all. And then this is going to be the attack and defense that we're going to be going to the next level. And again, with the attack and defense, you'll just need a browser. I believe because Pentester Academy uses GCP, I believe they recommend Chrome. I haven't had a problem with Firefox, but you know, you just need a Gmail account to access the free labs. And overall, what we're going to do, we'll work through a few of these challenges on each of the platforms. Over the wire, we're going to do three different levels on Bandit. You know, we'll discuss the different ways. I'll go through how I've achieved getting the flag, and then in the chat, bring up how you were able to get the flag if you beat us to it. Alrighty. So that's our master plan. Got it? Good. So, like I mentioned, Bandit, it's a war game that's designed for absolute beginners, and it'll teach you the basics. So if you haven't already, go ahead and open up the Over the Wire, that URL that I sent you for War Games Bandit. You can see it right here on this side of the screen. It is a very good habit, whatever lab environment that you're going into, is to note whatever the rules of engagement are for each of the lab environments that you go into. Also, when you start going into levels, that will also provide you what your scope is, what your target is going to look like, and what you're trying to achieve. Maybe there might be some helpful tips or resources provided. So it's always, I mean, I doubt that you would be like on your own and just happen to hit Over the Wire, but it's definitely a good habit to have. Sorry, I feel like I haven't talked this much in weeks. So much water. Okay. So let's get into it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up level 0. You'll see this in the screen. Are you guys good to move on before? I don't want to be going too fast. Yes, no, maybe so. I don't see any resistance, so I'm going to assume that we're good to go forward. If not, let me know and I'll slow down. All right, so for Over the Wire, how we're going to connect to this, if I haven't said it a couple times, we're going to connect through SSH. So SSH is, you know, secure shell. This provides you a secure channel for you to connect to network services, being able to execute code, log in, and command line in. So what can the syntax look like? If you are using terminal, it can look something like this. It'll be SSH username at the remote server. It could be an IP, it could be a URL. Usually SSH will default to 22, but in this case, I have here that there might be a flag. So you would use that with the attack P. And you can see there, got the little description right there. And if you look at the Bandit level 0, you can see that it's telling us that we're going to be connecting on port 2220. So, and just as a quick disclaimer, we're going to, for this purpose of this workshop, we're just using SSH to connect to the machine, execute some command line, and log in. So, yeah. All right, so I said this before. So if you are trying to SSH into this machine, how would that syntax look? So go ahead and try to see if you can figure that one out. And based on the instructions, we should have a password as well, which I believe was bandit 0. And I see what's wrong with my syntax. I forgot the SSH. Oh, if you are using PuTTY, you'll need to put the username, so bandit 0 at the URL, or the resource, the remote host that you're logging into, and then just make sure you change the port in that. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and send that. Looks like we're logged in. So once now you're in the machine, right? What might be some of the first things that you might want to run, or what are pieces of information you're going to want to know once you're on a box? You know, you might want to know, where am I? Who am I? Not so existential crisis-y, but just what user am I logged in as? What is here? So those might be a few things that you might want to run. And what commands can help you find out that information. Give it a few minutes for some suggestions in that chat. No? Well, something like PWD, print working directory. So if we were to go ahead and see what we have here, looks like we're in the home, the bandit user's home directory, right? Oh, no, wrong box. Move. Okay. Another thing that you might want to do is list all the files that are here. So you might want to do ls. I typically do tac al. Let me turn that off. I typically do al. Okay. So you're going to want to do ls to list the files of the current directory. I do tac al to list all the files. So that would also list like all these hidden files that have a dot in front of it. So if I were just to do ls, you would just see readme. That's just a habit that I have. Some people do. Yep. There you go. Those are, yes, exactly. Right on, Steve. So yeah, so do ls, and now it looks like there's a really interesting file, but there also would be a who am I, or maybe it's ID that you want to run. So you want to see what kind of privileges you have. So it looks like we're bandit 0. Now in over the wire, one of the kind of like tips of the hats, I might have mentioned it before, or like the type of tips hint that you would get is you're going to be looking to access the next level user. So we're going to be looking for, since we're bandit 0, we're going to be looking at bandit 1. So there's a file here that was created by bandit 1, and that's a README file, and it looks like it's world readable, right, and group readable. So we can go ahead and how are we going to read this file, right? And if you happen to have the privileges, which it looks like we do, how are you going to read this file? I might have said that twice, but well, you might want to use cat, or just I open up another box. So we might want to use cat and do readme. And now we have the password for bandit 1. That is our flag right there. So you might want to copy and paste that, or copy this and paste this into your notes wherever you might have them, unless you're really great at typing that out without messing it up. And you know what? Hey, more power to you if you can. And we leveled up. So was everybody able to get that? Did I move too fast? Do I need to explain something? Did I miss something? Yep, cat. Maybe there's a lag that I have. I'm going to take that as we're good to move on. Okay, so we now have that. We're going to go ahead and just exit this session. And we're going to go to the next level. So the next level is going to be Bandit 1. We're going to use that found flag as password. So we're going to, if you are using if you are in a terminal, you just hit the up arrow and just go ahead and edit. We just went through all. You can just go ahead and edit that command, which is what I'm going to do instead of writing that all out. And if you're pasting into shell, if you don't already know, you want to use Control-Shift-V instead of Control-V if you have, if you're doing that. So once you're logged in, again, you might want to do some of those things that we just did in our the Bandit 0 level. So I'll give you guys a few seconds to try to see if you can find anything interesting. And yeah, we'll go from there. Now it looks like there's a very interesting file here. This this tac or minus sign or insert other word for saying that symbol there. So how would we read this file here? If you try doing cat and you hit that minus sign, you might not have success with that. And you know, and who created this file? It looks like it's Bandit 2. So looks like that might be the file that we want to go after. So give you guys a second. Oh, I got it. Cool. Alrighty. So one way you can do this, and this is, oh, and also what type of data might be stored in that, because that later on could become helpful. So how can we view a file that has a symbol? Well, one way you can do it is use the full path. You can do cat/home/bandit1/tac. I hope you like my gestures there, my karate moves. But there might be a shorter way of being able to read that. What might that be? Well, one way that could be is doing a .whack tac, which the dot means this current directory here. Hi, baby. Which means current directory that you're in, present working directory. So if you just do cat or pop up a whole nother window like me. Yes, thank you, baby. Yep, there you go. Dot tac. Da-da-da. We've got it. We've got the string that we need, well, the password for Bandit 2. And now if you wanted to see what type of information was in that or what type of data was in there, you can use a command called file. So if we weren't sure, we can see that there's ASCII text in there. So that's something that we can definitely read. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this into my notes. And it looks like we leveled up. We'll do one more on Bandit, and then we'll move on to another CTF style. How we doing, guys? Doing okay? Wish I could hear y'all. So go ahead and rinse and repeat and tweak. Why do I keep doing that? Rinse, repeat, and tweak a bit. I skipped a level. Let me fix that. And go into Bandit 2 and see what you can find. I'll give you guys a minute or a few moments to sign in and take a look around. And we'll go from there. I don't know if anybody can hear that, but my dad's yelling in the background. happened. I need to look at that file. Yeah, so in this particular challenge, that's what we're looking for. We're looking to level up to the next user. So whenever you're logged in as bandit number whatever, you're going to be looking for the one that comes next. So in this case, we're bandit 2. So we're going to be looking for anything that bandit 3 might have used. We're looking for those, I guess we're looking, I don't want to say it's like a privilege escalation. I mean, kind of is, but this is not how you would be looking for a privilege escalation if you're doing a security assessment. But yeah, we're looking for what the next level user, we're looking for access to the next level user. Does that make sense? Maybe. I hope I answered your question. Okay, so yeah, so now again, go ahead. I think I already said that. And so by doing our few commands, we can see that there is a file here that has spaces in the file name. So if you were to go ahead and start writing, if you wanted to write cat this and just do spaces in this file name, just like that, cat's not going to be able to read that. It'll tell you it's thinking that those are separate files. So how can you read a file that has spaces in it? Well, one way is escaping the spaces. So we gotta escape them spaces though. So one way you can do that, unless I just love open up other boxes on my machine. So one way of doing that, if you just do SPA, do tab autocomplete, terminal will do it for you. It'll go ahead and escape those spaces for you because it knows in that directory that you're in, that current directory, that there is only one file in there that starts with SPA. So it'll go ahead and autocomplete with escaping. Another way of doing it might be doing something like this by coding it. And again, it'll tab autocomplete for yourself. Well, for yourself. It'll do it for you. It'll autocomplete for yourself. For you. I keep saying that. I need to stop saying that. So if we go ahead and cat that file, we got it. And in this instance, we need to look for that one because it's a file. And another reason why we want to look at it, not only just because it's the next level that we're trying to get into, but also that's not a file that's typically there. That's definitely a user created file. In Linux, you'll typically see these files. So, but you will not see this. Well, actually these are directories, but this doesn't come built in, right? So this is something that a user would have to create. This is something that stands out. So if you weren't sure what the user was, or if we did not know we're looking for that next level user, that might be another reason why we would go after that file. It stands out, right? So we've escaped the spaces. We've now leveled up. And as you can see with Bandit, one thing that I really do like about it is that it builds on top of what you've just done. So you can continue going down this path and it will build on stuff that it's already kind of taught you or kind of had you look into or use. And another thing is I like doing it because sometimes you use a command in this that you might have forgotten about. You might have learned in a class or when you were first learning Linux, and through just, over time, if you haven't used it a lot of times, you might have forgotten about it. And then you forgot, how useful said command could be. And that wraps us up for Bandit. So just a few other things that I want to mention about it. Go ahead and turn off my machine. If you want, you can go ahead and continue using your machine, your VM for the next the next challenges we're going to go do, but it's not necessary. But going back to what I was about to say, Some of the things that I do want to mention or highlight in regards to Bandit, man is going to be your friend. Man is a command in Linux that means manual, so you can use it on any commands or even tools that are you have installed. So the way you would use that would be man and then insert command here. And other resources, understanding the Linux file structure, you might see that it's linked here. I have put together, and I'll show you this document of all the resources that I will be mentioning in this portion and what I have already mentioned, and I'll make that available to you guys after this. I don't want to overwhelm you guys by just keep throwing all these in the chat. And then that way you have like a repository or just, my list of resources that I'm using. Let me just refresh this. Yeah, my chat's not uploading, so I see yours a little bit later. Okay, cool. Now I'm seeing all the chats, the messages. I'm just calling it the chats from now on. Another thing is resource is, the Linux Fundamentals by Paul Cabot. I can't say people's last names. I really apologize. Just my English doesn't work like that. That is a really phenomenal resource right there. And also in regards to, in order to not recreate the wheel, because I really think that it's kind of unnecessary. There's so many resources out there, and Over the Wires community provides a phenomenal job, does a phenomenal job of providing these. As you can see right here, when you get up to level 8, they'll tell you what commands you might want to look into. Some of them you might want to use, some of them you might not need to use, and they'll provide you helpful material that will help you, understand what you're doing. If you noticed on Bandit level 0, which is something I should have mentioned before, if you want, you can go back and forth. So I failed you on that. I'm really sorry. You can continue going through these levels and it'll tell you exactly what you're looking for. So that's another thing I did fail to mention. So it'll tell you, hey, look, you're looking for this README file, or hey, you're looking for a file named this. Like I said, Bandit is made for absolutely beginners, and I still go through it every so often. I actually used to have a huge list of all the challenges because I've actually gone through all of these before, and I'm in the middle of merging my notes. So I actually just might go through this again just to refresh. I think it's a really great tool. Oh, this is the note that I wanted to remove. So yeah, they have a phenomenal insert word that I cannot figure out in my head here. They just do a phenomenal job providing these resources. And again, if you are struggling with this, take a breath, but there is plenty of walkthroughs. There's tons of walkthroughs on some of these over the wire challenges. I wrote here, try not to rely on them, but quite honestly, it's a great way to reference. When I say try not to rely on it, I meant something like, don't just always use it just to get through it, just to say you finished it. But actually, not only that, but sometimes when some of these walkthroughs that you see published, some people will they assume that the reader has the understanding, which is fine, but sometimes it's not beginner friendly. It doesn't, they're not explaining to you why you might be using a certain tool. They might not be explaining what this tool might do. It just literally will provide you, oh yeah, this is the code that you run. This is the syntax it's gonna look like, and you're gonna get this, and congratulations, you got this. So just make sure you understand what you're going through if you do follow walkthroughs that are like that. So yeah, that's enough on that. So victory is ours. We've completed 3 levels, and I hope you guys enjoyed that that war game enough that maybe you go and continue and you get all the way up there. I know some of those levels are a little tedious, but it's definitely satisfying when you're able to accomplish that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and go to Juice Shop. I'll go ahead and throw my link in there again, just in case anybody has just joined us and wants to participate in this part. But if not, and you already have your own instance, go ahead and pull up your instance. And we'll get into that in just a second. I'll just talk a little bit about OWASP Juice Shop. if I haven't already said this before. So OAuth Juice Shop is a JavaScript juice shop. So it's a JavaScript-based web application that's absolutely riddled with security vulnerabilities. So one thing I'm going to mention before we start messing around with this web app, do not put any information that is real. If you see a user login page, do not use a real email account. Do not use real credit card information. Just this, it's designed to be vulnerable. So just don't. You know, if you're going to use a test email, just use test@test.com or something like that. You know, make up something. So yeah. So Juice Shop. In regards to this, I'm going to just make this a little bit bigger. So with this, I'm going to do this a little differently. So I've done a couple courses where some instructors have showed this, and I'd rather treat this as you found a web application and you let's pretend like this is kind of like black box, and you're not using any tools. We're not using any burp proxy. We're not using anything like that. We're just using whatever is built or any extensions. We're just going to use whatever the browser has built into it that has to offer. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do, just take a few moments, go ahead and click around. We're not going to be looking for crazy advanced things. We're going to see if we can find anything that might indicate there might be a vulnerability someplace, and see if you can find any sort of green boxes that will appear. And don't be afraid to inspect the page. Definitely welcome to inspect the page. You might find something interesting. And I will say, if you scroll down far enough, you can see in some of the JavaScript, you can see what the answers are. Try not to do that. I mean, you know, treat it like a web app that you're assessing. And let me know if you guys find anything interesting, and I'll go through some of the ones I think you might find. I might click around at some places that, you know, you might want to look at. Well, actually, we're not going to do that one. Well, we can. Might be some user input fields or some funny links. And as you can see, this is set up as like a kind of like an e-commerce site, right? So you can see that you can shop around if you wanted. Looks like you can see the email schema. Very interesting. Sorry, I just heard that sound from me. It's not embarrassing at all. Alrighty. Let me refresh this, see if you guys have said anything. Clearly, I talk to myself a lot, whether people are listening or not. You know. All right, we're going to go ahead and go forward because just with the keeping time in mind. All right, so here's a few things that you might find that something's up. There might be a vulnerability here. So if you might have clicked around and found a customer feedback. There's something there that could be abused. There's a review form. If you go to the About Us page, there's a funny link there. There's a search field. Yeah, exactly. Is that on the Is that the About Us one? Oh yeah. So thank you for bringing that up, Amy. Let's look at that one. So you can see I listed a few other things here. We're going to go do the About Us one. So like Amy mentioned, when you see this, there's this link here, and if you hover over it, it's not going to do it for me because I think my search bar, my bar is in the way. Don't do it. So you can see at the bottom left, it looks like it's going to take us to a FTP directory and bring us to a legal file, which is very interesting. Like that's kind of like a red flag. Sounds like there might be something that's sensitive or something that's being exposed. So if you go ahead and you click this link, you'll see that it brings us to this legal document, which on its own is in Latin. It's legal Latin. But you see this file path here. Yeah, we'll look at that one too. Thank you. You might be able to run a script there. But I'm going to look at this one really quick. So you see that there's that. Let's see if we remove this file right here, this legal file, if there might be something interesting in this directory. And if you see, there's some files here that are exposed, which to me, just from this directory should not be available to the public. If this company, Juice Shop, had this exposed, this in itself is a vulnerability. And so something like acquisitions, this might be a piece of document. And as we can see, this is a confidential document that they're telling us this should not be distributed, that there's a merger coming up, and this needs to be hush hush, and this is not fake news. So right here, this is a sensitive information disclosure vulnerability. So this, so if you found this first, you might have been able to get this little green box that looks something like this. And so congrats. I lost my thought. So yeah, so this is a sensitive data exposure. So which basically this can be an effect of a bunch of, an effect of many different things. So this can be because, a misconfiguration, poor setup, no encryption, software flaws, so on and so forth. So this is something that would need to get remediated. So then this vulnerability is no longer, or this misconfiguration is no longer occurring, right? Looks like somebody did beat me to that because I don't have a green box. All right. So somebody mentioned the search field, which is super helpful. So yes, the search field might have something there. I'm actually going to click through this part. So if you go to the search field, there's user input, and typically user input or wherever there is a user input being like counted on, or the application is waiting on user input to go ahead and execute something, or provide just execute something. I'll leave it at that. A lot of things could go wrong if secure coding or secure coding practices aren't in place. So we'll go down that a little bit. So since there's a search field function, we might want to throw something that might be unexpected. So if this is a search function, sometimes there could be a database running in the background. So one way to figure out if there might be a database where we can trigger a database error could be throwing like a single quote in there. Doesn't look like that's causing anything, but if we go ahead, let me just grab it from here, and I'll go ahead and post these little scripts to you guys. I think there's an error in that one. All right, so if you were to go ahead and put this alert script right here into your into the search fields, let me just paste that for y'all. So if you were to write something like that and submit that into your search field, doesn't look like that triggers anything. Doesn't even come up. but there's other alert boxes that could trigger us cross-site scripting. So this alert box here would cause like it could pop up an alert box. This would be like a basic cross-site scripting, like a stored cross-site scripting vulnerability. Something like this would be DOM-based. And it looks like right there, we were able to do a DOM-based cross-site scripting attack. I didn't phrase it the way I wanted, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. So, yep, I think I just said that in my PowerPoint. I'm a little ahead of myself on my little PowerPoint. But yeah, so we were able to execute a iframe. Actually, I think I used something different. No, I didn't. I used the same one. We were able to create an iframe that messed with the document object model, which is on the page. Let me move to my next slide where I have a better explanation of that. So yeah, you should see, if you have your own instance, you should see I didn't send you guys this box. I am so sorry. So if you go ahead and put this other alert box that is, that is an iframe source, you'll see that a green box has popped up. I apologize, it was going too fast. Was anybody able to get a green box on their instance? Able to trigger that? Okay, so I'm going to continue moving. So yeah, so this is a form of cross-site scripting attack. Cross-site scripting has 3 different variants. One that's stored, which tends to be more dangerous because this could be code that becomes embedded into the page itself. So every time the page is visited, it'll pop this box. Reflected is not as dangerous. It basically lives on the client side, it would not be stored, so it wouldn't trigger every single time that the page gets visited. And then DOM-based can be either client or server side, and this is when you're modifying that document object model environment that's on the browser. So it's like it says here, is that it's on the page itself, and it doesn't change, but the client side code that contained in the page executes differently due to the malicious modifications that have occurred in that environment right there. Yeah. Guys want you to feel the excitement of seeing the little green box come up, of course. Oh no, go back to this one. All right, like I said, with the interest of time, because I want us to get to that network-based one, we're gonna go to, we're gonna just cover this part really quick too. So now that there's green box, clearly there's some sort of these little green boxes that are being triggered based off of what vulnerabilities we're finding. To me, that means that there's some sort of like logging happening and where this is kind of being tracked, right? And so one way that we might want to look for other pages or paths. Now, if this wasn't a JavaScript-based web application, this might not be the way we go about it. And we could go about this another way, and I'll explain that in a minute, but we're going to jump into this. So the way we're going to do this is, if you're on any of these pages, I'll actually just recommend you guys just go back to the search page, the main page. Go ahead and inspect that page. I'm going to make this a little bit larger so we can all see this. Well, so y'all can see this. And you'll see that if you go to the source page, this source tab, I'm sorry, go to the source tab, you'll see that there's all these different JavaScripts that are being ran on this application. Now, the JavaScript that we're going to focus on is this main tac es 2015.js. And when you click it, you'll see that it's all on one line, which makes this extremely hard to read. So what we're going to do, I'm going to click to put this in pretty print. If you are using, I'm using Brave right now. If you're using Firefox, I believe there's a symbol up here in the top right corner. If I'm not mistaken, you should see like curly brackets. So you'll see that they're, now this is much easier to read. And we're going to be looking for paths. We're looking for some other URL paths that could be present, because I'm thinking there's challenges. There might be some sort of scoreboard. And that's something that would be unique to this application, right? That's not something that is on other web applications. You're not going to see a web app that's for e-commerce that says, scoreboard. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put up the find bar by doing Control F, and just type in path and see if we can find anything that is going to indicate that there's other paths that are available. I could also just type in scoreboard, but there might be a variety of ways of writing that out. So I'm just going to do path, scroll down a bit. Well, actually, I could just, why am I doing it like that? Silly goose. Just jump around the path, and you can see at some point when we get to line 19,590, we're seeing that there's other paths that might be available for us. And like I mentioned, I'm looking for something that's called scoreboard. So I think that might help us. And I found it right here. So once you find it, go ahead and copy, or just remember that schema or how it's written. And what you're going to do is, instead of this search here at the end of your URL, you're going to go ahead and replace that with that score tac board and put that in. It should take a moment, and we should load up our scoreboard. So I already spoke through this, so I'm sorry. I'm just popping this up on my slide. And if you have, again, you have your own instance, you should see a little green box. If you're using my instance, I'm sorry, I got the green box for you, but we found the scoreboard. So like I mentioned, this is, we're finding this path this way because it happens to be listed in the JavaScript that is being ran on this page. But if there was a missing link on this site, like an admin portal that might be not listed on the map site, but we can go ahead and brute force for that by using something like Derb or Delvasto, or like you basically using brute forcing techniques with a word list that has common page names or URL names, right? So that's it for OWASP Juice Shop. Some things I do really want to mention, as you can see here on the scoreboard page. Actually, let me show all. I don't think I have. Things aren't showing. Show everything. Oh, it took a second. So something about OWASP Juice Shop that I really do love is you have this scoreboard, and as you can see here, finally that it loaded. You can see it lists all the different type of vulnerabilities, the different style vulnerabilities, whether it's cross-site scripting, sensitive data exposure, broken authentication, SQL injection, all different types of vulnerabilities that you can go ahead and play around with. And you can see here that there's some here that are unsolved. So let's say I was struggling with something like this admin section, right? It's linked to their Pwning OWASP Juice Shop PDF or resource, which is basically the blueprint for this whole, it's an amazing job that Bjorn and team has put together with this resource. It's not how I want to say it, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. They explain what the architecture is, the different types of challenges that they have. If you want to go challenge hunting, like if you want to specifically start working on broken access controls, if you want to specifically work on cryptography, if you want to specifically work on any other type of technique or other type of topic, you can go ahead and do that here in this, this web application. And if you are having a problem with a challenge, they provide solutions, they provide hints, they'll tell you what the difficulty level is. So they have everything from trivial to extremely difficult. It's a lot of fun. And this becomes a really great resource because not only does it explain what type of issue that appear on the screen, I have broken access controls, it explains to you why that's a vulnerability, and it'll provide you resources as to maybe some of their cheat sheets that they have, because OAuth also has a really phenomenal repository of cheat sheets for tons of web app vulnerabilities. So, and also what OWASP, the juice shop, is made for you to find these vulnerabilities manually. So you could use a proxy if you wanted, but I think I read somewhere in here that you're not going to be as successful because, you know, something like Burp Suite or, you know, Derb is going to be looking for things that are common, like common URL paths, right? They're not going to find something called Scoreboard. Other proxies that are good is OWASP Zap is another really good proxy to use. That is an open source proxy. Burp Suite also does have community edition as well. And something that I do want to mention in regards to Burp Suite, that is provided by Portswigger, and they have an academy for you to learn more about using Burp Suite and web applications. And again, that resource I have in this document, and I'll send that to you guys in a bit. All right, so last one. I'm going to try not to go too fast on this, but I know we're getting short on time. So I'm going to go ahead and send this to you guys, this link in this chat. Go ahead and log in. And also, I'm sorry, I forgot to celebrate. We did it, guys. We got a couple boxes. And hopefully you guys will have some time later on if now you've had this set up for yourself. Or also in that Pruning Juice Shop, there is resources on how you can set it up. And if you want to do Heroku, so setting it up in a cloud, or if you want to set it up locally, there's different types of setups, because if you're doing it in that public cloud, there's certain vulnerabilities that you cannot go ahead and exploit just due to, you know, it's not your environment. So yeah, but we did it, guys. And we're going to move to Pentester Academy. Go ahead, sign in. I'm already signed in. Make sure you navigate to the community labs, and we're going to go down. It used to be at the top, but since I had come up with this, they've added a ton of free labs. We're going to the Ctf Kali GUI attacker. All right. I'm going to leave this up on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and start my lab, but you can see my slide is here. So make sure you go to community labs, Ctf Kali GUI attacker. Make sure you hit the start, and then we're going to go ahead and run the server. So when you get to this page, also make sure you set which server is closest to you. I'm going to set it to East because that's close to me. While it is running and setting your own environment up, because that's something I do really like about Pentester Academy, is that when you're deploying this, you're deploying your own dedicated lab environment, and it's going to have everything implemented in this environment that you could possibly need for the challenge or for the lab that you are doing. They also provide, you can see here on my screen, they provide you what the scenario is, what your target schema is going to look like. They typically do this where your target is usually 192 dot insert number .3. You should be a .1. And so my IP address will be different from your IP address when we're doing this. And yeah, I think this is a really great way to do this. There'll be 3 different flags. We're only going to do the first one. Yeah, I hope you guys are caught up with me and I'm not moving too fast. But I'm going to go ahead and open this, and you'll see it just takes a second and pops up a guacamole instance of a Kali GUI here. So again, for this, just need your browser. Gotta take my water. All right. So once you're in the box, one thing that you're going to want to do is open up your terminal, and we're going to want to find out what this IP, the schema is that we're following into. We're in. Okay. So how we're going to do that, I'm going to do IP address. And so right here under this, which interface is this? The ETH1 interface, you're going to, okay, let's just not open up my terminal as big as I wanted. Thank you. So right here, this is what my IP address is. I'm sorry, I was mistaken. So your default gateway is a .1. You should be a .2. That was my mistake. I'm sorry. Yeah, because that's exactly. So that's also another good reason to make sure you always read whatever is mentioned in your scopes or your requirement. Also rules of engagement. And as you can see on here, they'll tell you what your prohibited activities are, what they kind of expected of you. And these guys actually also provide technical support, which is really nice. And they'll provide you a little topography of what is the environment that we're working in. So make sure you take a note of that. So what I'm going to do is, since I know that our target is a .3, I'm just going to copy this. And since we already know that it's .3, we're going to now scan the target. What we're going to use, well, I recommend using is Nmap. Nmap is a really great tool for network scanning. It's extremely versatile, has a wide range of different types of syntaxes that can be used. You can use the default, which would be Nmap, and then insert IP address here. It could be with these other flags. So the one that I usually end up going to is the TAC SV, TAC O, TAC P, TAC. And I really do the all ports when I'm doing a lab environment like this, or I'm doing a CTF that it's not really, or a CTF style cyber challenge where I'm not being time conscious. I mean, actually in this instance, I could just we don't have to do it TAC P TAC, but it actually takes a pretty quick time in this environment. Anyways, we could do a TAC PN, which would skip host discovery. So just assume that the host is up and then make it a very verbose output. So let me know exactly what it is that you're doing, or the tool will tell you what it's doing at every step of the way. And the most important one is TAC H. Like I said, Nmap can be pretty versatile. So there's tons of different flags. And you know what, if you have a phenomenal memory and you can remember all of them, kudos. I don't. So I use help a good amount of times. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. TAC SV, TAC O. Oh, I don't think I mentioned. So TAC SV is services. TAC O is going to be operating system. So it's going to fingerprint it. TAC P TAC is going to be all ports, and then the IP address, which is going to be TAC 3. That's going to just take a second. So while this is going, I'm just going to kind of skip ahead because, again, I just saw the time. So our output should look something like this. We should see port 22 is open, and that there's a server, a web server that's open, an Apache Tomcat. So if we wanted to go, we can go to our, well, look, see, pretty quick. So as you can see this here. We can actually just go to it, to TAC 3, 8080, which is the port that it's running on. But it looks like there's nothing there. You know, there's nothing for us to mess around with. But there is a web host, right? So something that we can do is we could dirb it. We can see what pages is this URL hosting. So we can use dirb, or we could actually use another tool. We could use Delvasto, which is going to be like the GUI interface of it. I'm just going to show you what dirb looks like on here, on my slide. When I said here, that's what I meant. So it would look something like this, and you can see that there's going to be a manager portal that's open, which is very interesting to me in this case. But we're going to actually use Metasploit for the rest of this. So we're going to go ahead and open up MSF console. SF console. Just might take a moment to go ahead and open it. And you know what, just with the interest of time, I'm gonna just, we can see that this manager portal is open, right? So, and because both tools, this is a good habit, and I do want to mention this, it is a good habit to sometimes use multiple tools to make sure that you're getting similar results, or at least the same results, because sometimes if you just use one tool and you rely on it, there might not be certain checks that are in place on that tool that might be in place in another tool, or just to make sure that it's not a false positive, or, you know, even worse, a false negative. But since there's a manager portal open, you know, we might want to see if, because Metasploit is such a phenomenal framework that has many different modules, whether they're auxiliary scanners, or leading all the way up to exploit, we can see if they do have a module. And as you can see here, I had done a search before where I searched the application that is running on there. So that service, that Apache Tomcat, and I abbreviate manager to MGR to see if there was. And you can see there's tons of auxiliary scanners. And we're going to actually use this Tomcat _man MGR _ login. So if you go ahead and type in use auxiliary, and you can use tab autocomplete to do this. Tomcat MGR login. You can see we can go ahead and use this. One thing, oh no, okay, got ahead of myself. So we're gonna have to set the options. So I just typed in info just because when you are doing things with Metasploit, when you're using Metasploit and you're using certain modules, it is a good habit to pull up the info on it. If it's something like an exploit, it'll tell you what the rating of the exploit is. Sorry, it looks jumbled up like this because of the size of my window. So the lab that we're doing in particular is free. They have some free labs, but a majority of the labs are not free, where they require subscription. And I'll show you guys a little bit of that if we have some time. So because this is so much smaller than my screen, there are certain things that we do have to set. We do have to set the R host, which is going to be the remote host. So we do need to put the IP address in that. And then this is already set to 8080, which is the portal that we're looking at, and also the URI, which is going to be that path, that manager portal. So I'm going to go ahead and type in set R host to 192.1.150. You would fit your other numbers there. .3. Make sure that's set. Should go ahead and run it. And what this module is actually going to do is going to brute force that portal login, and we'll see it pop up. It's going to brute force with all the default creds, so usernames and passwords that could possibly be used for this web application. So yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's specifically to this version, if I'm not mistaken. So as you can see, it's brute force, and it was successful right here with Tomcat Secret, which is S3CRET. I think I spelled that right. So yeah, so it looks like we were successful. We got some creds. That means we can authenticate in. So if we wanted to, we can go to this manager page. Manager, I don't think I spelled that right. We go to this manager page, should be a URL. And if we wanted to, we can go Tomcat secret free login, or not, you know, that's cool. Tomcat. There we go. So we were able to log in. So if you look through the GUI on this manager portal, since we're authenticated in, which that's a problem because one, they shouldn't have default creds. But if you scroll down, you can see that you can upload a WAR file, which I think that's something we can take advantage of. So that's what we're going to do. And we could either do this manually, but because Metasploit actually has this module, we're going to use that module to exploit. So that module will be the Tomcat _MGR _uploads, which this is going to upload a .war file with a reverse shell, and it should open up an interpreter shell. So in order to use that, we're going to have to type in use exploit Luckily, you can use autocomplete between each of these, which should make it easier instead of typing the whole thing out. Upload. And we're going to have to set the R host. We're going to have to set the R port. We're going to have to set the username that we just got, that Tomcat, and we're going to have to set the password, which is going to be that S3 CRET, secret. And then we're going to run that, and we should be successful by getting a interpreter shell. So I'm going to go ahead and set all this. And I think in this instance, we did have to set the R port for whatever reason. Typically, like I said before, usually when I use certain modules or modules I haven't used before, I do run an info just to see how reliable it is, because actually, I don't think I finished that thought before, is because it'll tell you what the, how reliable it is. So if it's like normal, it's not, certain things could go awry. You can cause like a dose. It might not be as successful getting a shell. You might have to keep sending it or keep trying to execute, where something excellent would be more successful. It has a higher success rate. Okay, set 18. It looks like we got a shell. So we're going to do something similar to what we did with Bandit. We want to know, where are we? We want to know, well, you know what? I missed the celebration. Shell, yeah, we got it. So we want to know, where are we? Who are we? Is there anything interesting to look at? So where are we? We're in the options file, directory under Tomcat. Is there anything interesting here? Looks like there's a file named flag. So we can go ahead and cat that. One, and there we go. We got flag number 1. We got a shell on another system, guys. And that's it for the Pentester Academy one. And now you've got that first shell, this first flag, you can go ahead and copy and paste this into the verify flags. You should get this little symbol here that says you've been verified on your flag. And if you want to, you are more than welcome to continue with this. But something that I did want to touch on is, so I actually do have a membership with Pentester Academy. Something I really do like about that is you have all these different types of lab environments that you can work on, where they really go into depth on the material. As you can see, tons of different lab environments that you can go ahead and spin up on your own and practice. I think that this is a really great resource to use if your budget allows you to do this. Otherwise, those community labs, I think that that's also just, it's a really great resource. They have they list out how easy they are, or the difficulty levels. And so, yeah, and you can obviously, I think you can learn from them for sure. Also, with those other labs, they'll provide you, if you're having a hard time, they actually have some of them that have manuals for, if you're trying to learn something new. But again, try not to rely on it. It literally just walks you through the steps. It doesn't explain to you why. But they do have, if you do have a membership, you have access to the courses that that Vivek has put out. I wish I could say his last name, but I can't. Vivek Ramachandran. But he had started SecurityTube, and he's then created Pentester Academy, and he's recently came out with Attack and Defense, I want to say in the last year or two. And it's a really great lab environment for you to learn and play around in, that you're allowed to break certain things. Yeah, that's that. Oh, here's some resources that I have listed here. Again, I'll have these are just some tools that we use. IPSec Rocks is a great site that IPSec has put on. That is a great search engine for you to go ahead and do. or to look up certain techniques that he goes over. He actually goes through a lot of walkthroughs for retired Hack the Boxes and newly retired Hack the boxes. If you end up getting a free membership with them, with Hack the Box, you do need to hack your way into getting a pass. But outside of that, guys, just some food for thought. Take these challenges. I hope they're meant to be enjoyed and meant to be to learn from. So I really hope that you're able to do both. And try not to talk yourself out of it. If you do end up you want to bang your head against something, maybe a pillow, but don't hurt yourself. Take a deep breath, grab a Kit Kat. For me, I might have to pet my dog a couple times. But you can do it. You can get through it. If I can do it, you can definitely do this. I mean, I started with very little knowledge in the security background. And also there's tons of resources out there. Again, I'll provide you with the resource document that I've put together. I did not put too much on there just to not overwhelm, but at least get, readers or people who are interested just started. And, that way you can create your own repository list and, don't forget your InfoSec community. Tons of meetups, and especially now we're doing these virtual conferences. It's a great opportunity to learn from other people, to network and participate in these CTFs. And with that being said, I hope wherever you get to, that you have the opportunity to pay it forward at whatever volume, whether it's sharing a resource or just sharing a little nugget of knowledge. I hope you're able to do that in the future, or mentor somebody, or just help guide somebody else. Welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. I tend to be a little bit more active on that. Twitter, not so much. I really just lurk there. I don't really do much else. But you're welcome to connect with me on either platform. If you have any questions, please reach out to me on any of those. I hope I didn't overwhelm any of you guys, and I really hope that you gained something, or at least hopefully you've had your eyes opened up to CTFs, and that they don't bite, or at least they don't bite hard. So, and thank you so much for having me here today. And I'm over the moon. I got chills thinking of it, of being up here with all these wonderful people in our community. And I hope you guys have a great day and stay healthy. Yeah. And I guess I'll stay on somewhere to get questions. Yeah.